You ever notice how people walk around desperate for love yet terrified of it at the same time? Like they want someone to care, but the moment someone actually does, they panic, hide, pretend they didn't see it. Funny creatures, aren't we? We crave attention, affection, validation, but the second it gets too close, we flinch as if love is some kind of trap waiting to snap shut. And maybe it is. Maybe that's why the universe likes to play these little games, dropping hints, nudging you, whispering that someone out there is watching you with a softness you don't even recognize yet. You know what's funny? People walk around every day acting like they're completely alone, like nobody notices them, nobody watches them, nobody feels anything for them. They convince themselves they're invisible, a blur in the background, just another face in the crowd. But the truth is, someone always sees you, someone always feels something, and before you even realize it, the signs were right there, dancing around you like little sparks you kept brushing off. Because people don't hide love the way they think they do. Oh, they try. They pretend they're calm, collected, unaffected. But affection, it leaks through the cracks. It slips out in the way their eyes follow you for a second too long. In the way their voice changes when they say your name. In the way they pretend they're just being friendly while their heart is pounding like it's begging for mercy. And the best part? You've already noticed. You have. Your mind may deny it, but your instincts catch everything. The way they linger near you when they don't have to. The way they laugh a little too hard at your jokes. The way they remember the tiniest things you mentioned once and never thought about again. Love always shows up before the confession. Always. It's written in gestures, in glances, in the space between conversations where feelings curl up like shadows waiting to be acknowledged. You might brush these things off as coincidence, but deep down there's a voice whispering that none of this is accidental, because when someone cares, truly cares, they leave fingerprints on your life long before they dare to touch your hand. They watch over you without saying it. They worry about you without admitting it. They light up around you and try to hide it behind a casual shrug, and it's almost amusing how people think they can bury affection beneath routine. They don't realize that small things scream the loudest, the soft good nights, the subtle check-ins, the little moments where they show up even when you didn't call. That's not chance. That's not politeness. That's love trying to breathe without getting caught. And here you are, pretending you don't feel the shift in the air when they enter a room, pretending your pulse doesn't jump when their eyes meet yours, pretending that you don't already know something is happening because you do. You've known, you've felt it. That warm tension, that unspoken connection, that strange comfort you can't explain away. Someone is in love with you, and the signs have been dripping all around your life like a secret waiting for you to stop being afraid of the truth. You ever notice how people swear they're good at hiding their feelings, yet their actions scream louder than any confession ever could? It's almost adorable, really. They think keeping quiet will keep them safe, but the body betrays the heart every single time. Words can lie, but movements are honest. Someone who's in love with you may never say it, may never dare to spell it out, but their actions expose them like a spotlight they can't escape. You just have to watch closely, carefully, like you're studying a puzzle where every piece is trembling with meaning, because someone who feels something for you can't help but lean in when you speak, even if it's barely noticeable. A small tilt of the head, a shift in posture, a softening in the eyes, tiny things but not accidental. And don't forget the way they position themselves around you, like gravity itself is pulling them closer. They try to pretend it's nothing, just a coincidence, but the body never drifts where the heart doesn't want to go. And you've seen it, haven't you? The way they turn toward you when you laugh, even if they're across the room. The way they reach out instinctively as if touching you is the most natural thing in the world. They brush something off your shoulder, hand you something gently, linger a split second longer than they should. These moments aren't random. They're breadcrumbs. Ever notice how someone in love remembers things you said once, casually, as if it didn't matter? Not because they're trying hard, but because their mind holds you like a sketch they can't stop tracing. They remember your preferences, your habits, the things you mentioned without thinking. They recall the dates that meant nothing to anyone else but somehow matter to them. They pay attention to you in ways others don't even attempt. They store details about you like treasures they're afraid to drop. A person who doesn't care forgets. A person who does care collects pieces of you without meaning to. And then there's the way they show up. Not dramatically, not with grand sacrifices or cinematic gestures. No, it's much quieter. They check on you when you're having a rough day. They notice your mood without you explaining it. They ask questions that go beneath the surface. They offer help in small doses that, when added up, paint a picture you've been refusing to look at. They make time for you even when they barely have any for themselves. Someone who's in love always finds a way to be present. Not always physically, but emotionally, mentally. They're tuned into you like you're a frequency only they can hear. People think love is loud, but real love is strangely subtle. It speaks through the things a person does without planning or rehearsing. You can tell when someone lights up around you, tries to be better around you, becomes softer without meaning to, becomes braver without realizing it. You catch them staring at you when they think you won't notice. That quiet admiration that flickers across their face before they snap back into their usual mask. It's funny how they look away so quickly, as if that tiny second didn't expose everything they've been trying to hide. Someone in love protects you in ways you don't always see. They worry when you take risks. They get tense when someone else hurts you. They step a little closer when they sense something's off. It's not possessiveness, it's a reflex. They care more than they want you to know, and it spills out in these strange, subtle ways that most people would never pick up on. But not you. You've felt it, you've noticed it, you just haven't admitted it yet. Because deep down, you can sense affection long before it's spoken. Your intuition catches it before your mind accepts it. You feel the warmth in their presence, the pull in their energy, the strange softness that surrounds you when they're near. You recognize that this isn't how they behave with anyone else, that their actions around you have a different weight, a different glow, a different urgency. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, people expect love to crash into their lives like a storm, loud, wild, dramatic. But real feelings, they don't start with fireworks. They slide in quietly like a shadow slipping under a door, like a secret trying not to draw attention to itself. Love rarely arrives with a trumpet. It creeps in with a whisper. It starts with little pauses, little hesitations, little moments where someone's heart stumbles just a bit when they look at you. No announcements, no grand gestures, just a slow, almost invisible shift in the way they exist around you. Someone in love doesn't always confess it. No, that would be too simple, too predictable. Instead, they start moving differently without realizing they're doing it. They soften around you, even if they're usually sharp. They calm around you, even if they're often restless. Something about you disarms them, pulls the chaos out of their hands, quiets the storm in their chest. People love quietly before they ever dare to say it out loud. And it's almost funny, watching them try to act normal while their heart betrays them every time you're near. You might notice how their voice changes when they talk to you. It drops, warms, steadies. Or maybe it rises, cracks, rushes. It depends on the person, really. Love has a way of scrambling logic, turning the simplest greeting into a performance they didn't rehearse. They speak to others casually, carelessly, but with you there's always something different. A softness, a spark, a tremble. They try to hide it, but you can hear it if you listen close enough. And then there's the silence. Oh, the silence says more than any confession ever could. When someone is falling for you, silence becomes charged, heavy, alive. Two people can sit in the same quiet room, but the quiet between you and them feels like it's breathing, waiting, leaning forward. Someone in love doesn't rush to fill the silence with pointless chatter. They sit in it, savor it, because even the quiet feels like a connection they don't want to break. Love makes people attentive in ways they can't explain. They start noticing things about you never noticed about yourself. The way you move your hands when you talk, the expression you make when you're thinking, the tone you use when you're tired or annoyed or pretending you're fine. They pick up on the tiny details everyone else overlooks. Someone in love sees the version of you that slips through the cracks, the real one, not the polished one you show the world. And the strangest part? They don't even realize how obvious they're being. They think they're subtle, invisible, but there's a glow around people with feelings, a nervousness in their gestures, a tension in the air when you stand too close. They look at you and look away too quickly, or they hold your gaze a second longer than they should. Either way, they expose themselves. Human nature is terrible at hiding affection. It leaks out through the eyes, the hands, the voice, the energy. Someone in love doesn't need to confess. Their presence is the confession. The way they check on you without being asked. The way they notice when you're not okay even when you're smiling. The way they try to be there for you in small, constant ways that no one else does. People think love is defined by big moments, but it's these tiny, quiet actions that reveal everything. Real love doesn't need a stage. It reveals itself in consistency, in attentiveness, in the small ways someone chooses you over and over without ever saying why. And the truth is, you already sense it. Maybe you've been afraid to believe it or too cautious to admit it. But deep down you feel that pull, that shift, that strange, undeniable warmth when they're near. Because love may enter quietly, but it doesn't stay hidden forever. It leaves too many clues scattered around your life, waiting for you to finally stop pretending you don't see them. You ever notice how your mind loves to play dumb while your instincts are screaming the truth right in your face? People like to pretend they're logical creatures, rational, calm, calculating. But when it comes to matters of the heart, logic doesn't lead, instinct does. That little pull in your chest, that strange tightness in your stomach, that warmth curling up your spine when someone enters the room, that's not imagination, that's recognition. Your intuition picks up on emotional signals long before your brain stops arguing with itself. Funny thing is, intuition doesn't shout. It whispers, it nudges, it tugs at you gently at first, like tapping your shoulder in a crowded room. But because you're so used to second-guessing yourself, you brush it off. You pretend you didn't feel anything unusual. You convince yourself that you're imagining the way they looked at you, or the way the energy shifted when your eyes met. But that whisper keeps returning, doesn't it? It doesn't leave you alone because it knows something your mind hasn't accepted yet. There's a reason you feel calm around some people and restless around others. There's a reason your heartbeat changes when they speak, when they smile, when they simply exist a few feet away from you. Intuition is your internal warning system, your emotional compass, your private detective gathering clues before you realize there's a mystery unfolding. And love, real love, always gives itself away through this silent communication. You sense it before any words are spoken, before any moves are made, before anything becomes obvious enough to call out loud. Think about those moments when you're around them, and the world seems to change temperature. Everything feels a little lighter or maybe a little heavier, but different in a way you can't explain to anyone else. It's not because you're imagining things. It's because your intuition is picking up signals you don't consciously process. Tiny variations in their tone, the softness in their eyes, the way they lean in just a little closer than necessary. You translate these moments not with logic, but with feeling. Your intuition notices the hesitation in their voice when they say goodbye. It catches the way their smile grows a little too wide when they see you. It detects the way they try to disguise interest as casual politeness. You feel all of it without needing evidence, without needing a confession, without needing anything loud or dramatic. You just know, even if you pretend you don't. People trust their minds far more than their instincts, but the mind is slow. It analyzes every detail, doubts every possibility, second guesses every feeling. Meanwhile, your intuition is already ahead, waving a little flag saying, hey, something's happening here. But you ignore it because feelings are messy, risky, unpredictable. So you bury that instinct under excuses. You tell yourself they're just being kind. You convince yourself you're overthinking. You blame coincidence for patterns that are too deliberate to be random. But intuition doesn't care about your excuses. It keeps pushing. It keeps sending signals. It keeps tugging at your awareness until you finally look at the situation without flinching. And when you do, everything suddenly makes sense. The glances, the tone, the energy, the timing, the way your heart reacts like it's been waiting for this moment from the beginning. Intuition connects dots your mind hasn't even acknowledged yet. And here's the secret. When someone is in love with you, your intuition doesn't just notice it. It responds to it. Your body reacts before your mind forms a single coherent thought. You feel drawn to them without knowing why. You trust them without understanding the reason. Something inside you recognizes the truth long before the truth becomes visible. You can try to deny it. You can try to rationalize it. But intuition is stubborn. It keeps whispering, nudging, reminding you that there's a reason you keep thinking about them at strange hours, a reason your thoughts circle back to them even when you're busy, a reason your heart feels heavier when they're distant and lighter when they're near, a reason you felt something shifting long before anything was said out loud. You know what's amusing? The way people walk around thinking no one pays attention to them while someone out there is studying them like a secret obsession they can't let go of. Someone in love doesn't need to shout it from rooftops. They show it in the tiny invisible ways they care for you. Not the dramatic acts that movies glorify, but the quiet, deliberate attentiveness that slips through their actions like cracks of light in a dark room. The kind of attention that makes you feel seen even when you're trying to fade into the background. And what's even funnier, you probably haven't fully acknowledged just how carefully this person watches over you. Someone in love with you pays attention to things you didn't even know were worth noticing. They see the way your eyes change when you're pretending everything's fine. They notice the tone you use when something's bothering you, but you don't want to talk about it. They catch the little habits you've built without thinking, how you fidget when you're nervous, how you tap your foot when you're deep in thought, how you look away when you're hiding something. They pick these things up like precious clues, each one giving them a deeper understanding of the person you are beneath the mask. They remember the small details that everyone else forgets, the way you like your coffee, the song you said you loved once, the story you told half asleep, the dream you mentioned casually, the thing you said you needed but never got around to buying. Someone who's in love holds on to these details because to them they're not little at all. They're pieces of you, fragments of your personality, parts of your world that they want to protect. They file these memories away so they can show up for you in ways you won't expect but will feel deeply. Ever notice how they always seem to appear at the right moment? Almost like they can sense when you're overwhelmed, when you're stressed, when you're about to break. They send a message, crack a joke, offer help, or just sit with you in silence because they somehow know that's exactly what you need. It's not a coincidence. It's not chance. It's the result of watching you closely enough to understand your emotional patterns. Someone who cares doesn't wait for you to ask. They prepare for the moment you might. They study your moods like weather patterns. They know the difference between your tired silence and your hurt silence. They know when your laugh is genuine and when it's just a shield you're holding up. They know the look you get when you're trying not to cry, or when you're pretending not to be jealous, or when you're pushing down something that wants to rise to the surface. Someone who's in love becomes fluent in your emotions long before they ever admit their own. And the fascinating part is how they adapt themselves around you. They speak softer when you're stressed. They give you space when you're overwhelmed. They get closer when you're lonely. They lift you up when you're doubting yourself. Their care adjusts itself like a reflex, responding to you without needing instructions. They want to make your world easier, safer, lighter, not because they're trying to impress you, but because they genuinely can't help themselves. What really gives them away is the effort they put into understanding you, not fixing you, not changing you, understanding you. They ask questions no one else bothers to ask. They listen to your rambling stories without checking out. They pay attention to your hopes, your fears, your dreams, your disappointments. They try to see the world from your eyes, because loving someone means wanting to understand their inner landscape, not just admire their surface. And maybe you've noticed how they treat you differently than everyone else. There's a softness in their gaze when they look at you, a gentleness in the way they speak your name, a kind of quiet respect in how they handle your heart, even if they haven't been invited to hold it yet. They're careful with you, but not distant, attentive, but not overwhelming, present, even when they pretend they're not. Someone in love with you notices the smallest shifts in your mood, the faintest cracks in your voice, the slightest change in your energy. They pay attention not because they must, but because their heart moves in your direction without asking for permission. You might not have realized it yet, but someone out there has been studying you with a tenderness they can't hide forever. People think love is loud, explosive, dramatic, like some big emotional parade marching right into their lives. But real affection doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need applause. It shows up in consistency, in the steady rhythm of someone choosing you again and again, even when there's no reward for it. Someone who's in love with you doesn't need to make a scene. They don't need to announce their feelings with roses or poetry or fireworks. They reveal themselves in the quiet, reliable ways they show up. And it's almost ironic how those small, repeated gestures end up saying far more than any grand confession ever could. Consistency is the language of real affection, and someone who loves you speaks it fluently without even realizing it. They're there every time you need them, often before you even know you need anything. They reply when everyone else leaves you on read. They check in when others forget. They remember to ask about the things that mattered to you last week, last month, last year. They don't disappear when things get complicated. They don't vanish when you're not at your best. They stay, not loudly, not dramatically, just steadily. Ever notice how someone who truly cares about you keeps showing up in your life in small but meaningful ways? Not just when you're happy and shining, but when you're drained, messy, falling apart. They don't flinch away from your bad days. They don't get tired of your fears or your doubts. They stay present even when you're quiet, even when you're pushing people away, even when you're trying to pretend you don't need anyone. That kind of consistency is rare. People don't keep showing up like that unless they care far more than they're letting on. And the funniest part? They'll act like it's no big deal. They'll shrug it off, smile it away, insist they're just being nice. But their actions betray them every single time. Because niceness doesn't sustain itself this long. Politeness doesn't check on you at 3 a.m. Courtesy doesn't make someone remember every important moment in your life. No, this is something different, something deeper, something that hums beneath the surface of every message, every gesture, every look. A quiet devotion they think they're hiding, but consistency exposes it beautifully. Someone who's in love doesn't waver. They don't treat you like a convenience, an option, or a mood. Their effort doesn't depend on the day or the weather or their schedule. They make room for you. They find time. They show interest without being asked. They offer support without needing credit. Their presence becomes a comfort, a stability, a rhythm you start to rely on without realizing it. Think about how they react when you're struggling. Most people back away, get uncomfortable, or expect you to keep your emotions tidy. But this person, they lean in, they ask, they listen, they stay. Not because it's easy, but because something in them refuses to leave you alone in your darkness. They're consistent in how they care for you, consistent in how they show up, consistent in how they treat you regardless of what mood you're in. And then there's how they celebrate you, not with big gestures or loud praises, but with steady support. They encourage you quietly. They cheer you on in ways that feel natural, not forced. They remind you of your strengths when you forget them. They take pride in your victories, even the small ones. They show up for the parts of your life that most people overlook. Their consistency isn't just about presence. It's about belief, a belief in you that doesn't fade when you falter. Look at how they communicate. They don't leave you hanging. They don't ghost you when things get emotional. They don't treat you like an afterthought. They respond with intention, with interest, with depth. They ask how you're doing and actually want the real answer. Their consistency in communication is a quiet declaration, one they may not be brave enough to speak yet, but one that pulses through every interaction with you. The truth is, someone who's in love with you will always show it in how they follow through, how they keep their word, how they remember what matters to you, how they treat you with the same care on the ordinary days as they do on the exciting ones. It's never the grand gestures that reveal them. It's the pattern of small ones stitched together day after day. Because consistency is the heartbeat of love. And someone out there has been offering you that heartbeat for longer than you realize. You ever notice how people walk around carrying a heart they claim is strong, brave, unbreakable? Yet the moment someone genuinely cares for them, they start trembling like a kid caught stealing candy. It's almost funny, really. The world teaches you to brace for hate, for betrayal, for abandonment. But affection, that's the real threat, the real danger, the thing nobody prepares you for. Because love sneaks up on you. And when it does, it rattles the walls you spent years stacking brick by brick. You feel it knocking, softly at first, then harder, until the echoes reach the deepest rooms of your mind. And suddenly you're not sure whether you should open the door or run from it as fast as you can. People always pretend they don't know who cares about them. They play dumb, act clueless, shrug their shoulders like, who, me, someone loves me? Impossible. Because admitting it would make them vulnerable. It would expose that secret, fragile part of them they keep locked behind sarcasm, noise, and tired excuses. But the funny part is, you do know who it is. You've always known. Their presence is a pattern. Their concern has a shape. Their effort has a scent. Their eyes linger half a second too long. Their voice softens only when saying your name. Their messages come fast, but their feelings come faster. They remember the things you forgot about yourself. They see the parts of you you've been hiding from the world. They notice the details nobody else even bothers to glance at. And they do all this without expecting applause. But you pretend. Oh, you pretend beautifully. You act like you don't see the way they light up at your smallest victories. You ignore the way they rearrange their world just to fit your storms. You brush off their concern with a laugh, hoping they don't notice how much it secretly warms you. You call it coincidence, convenience, friendship, timing, anything but what it really is. Because if you name it, it becomes real, and real comes with risk. And risk is something you've spent your whole life training yourself to avoid. Yet there's something amusing about it, isn't there? This little dance between you and the truth. You keep dodging it, but it keeps circling back. You push it away, but it clings harder. You try to look away, but its shadow stretches long enough to follow you everywhere. Because love isn't a polite guest. It doesn't knock and wait. It breaks in, sits on your couch, and starts rearranging your furniture while humming your favorite tune. It forces you to confront things you swore you'd never revisit. It strips away your armor piece by piece until all that's left is the trembling version of you that still believes in softness, despite everything the world has done to harden you, and deep inside you know why it scares you so much. Because you've met people who claimed they cared, and then left without explanation. You've trusted hands that promised gentleness, and delivered wounds instead. You've heard words that sounded sweet, until the bitterness swallowed you whole. So now, when someone genuine walks in, you don't recognize it, not because you can't, but because you don't trust the idea that something good could actually be meant for you. You've been conditioned to expect the fall before the climb, the fire before the warmth, the goodbye before the beginning. But here's the twist. This person doesn't want anything from you. They're not here to drain you or use you or mold you into their convenience. They're not trying to tame you or fix you or drag you into their illusions. They're simply there, consistently, quietly, stubbornly. They admire the chaos in you instead of fearing it. They're drawn to the jagged edges you think are too sharp to touch. They see your bruises and don't flinch. They hear the cracks in your voice and lean closer, not away. They're not intimidated by the darkness you think would scare anyone off. In fact, they find a strange beauty in the parts of you you keep hidden. And you feel it, don't you? That shift, that curiosity, that soft pull in your chest whenever they appear. You try to disguise it behind sarcasm, jokes, coldness, whatever shield you can grab fast enough. But there's this tiny part of you, that surviving, defiant part, whispering that maybe, just maybe, this person isn't like the rest. Maybe the universe didn't send them to test you, break you, or confuse you. Maybe it sent them to remind you that you are still capable of being cared for, no matter how much you try to convince yourself otherwise. And the more you run from the truth, the louder it becomes. Someone is in love with you, and deep down